Bienvenue, bunch formation. Je m'appelle Chris Vannini, and I am back from my European vacation, and I'm ready to talk some college football. I am not joined by David Ubben today. I'm actually joined by Sam Kahn Jr., my athletic colleague, my good buddy, my college football 26 rival. Sam's going to be on the show today to talk about a few things. Sam, how's it going, man?
Going good. I actually was up late last night playing a little college football 26. When the kids go to bed, that's dad time. So got some work done, and then after I got some work done, I went and fired it up and won a couple games. Thank you, Devin Dampier.
The very first game I played as soon as I got home, the first field goal I kicked was horrible. I had completely forgotten some of the controls. It took a little bit of time to get back into it. I actually played Dave in another thing. But Dave, speaking of David Ubben, he had the bright idea to move from Tennessee to North Carolina right before the college football season starts. And as he texted me, he is in hell right now. So he's planning to be back on the show later this week. And the next week it's week 0. We're off and running, and we should be good. But
I tried that one time, and not a good idea. I did it. My family and I moved about 7-8 years ago. We planned it right before the season, and then a hurricane hit the city, and then we couldn't close at the time we were supposed to close, and then it ended up moving like in the middle of the season, which is the worst thing ever.
Oh,
so as Dave said in the group text, I would say people should never move ever. Just stay where you are.
Yes.
It's too much hassle.
He wants to rant on the home moving industrial complex or something like that. We'll talk about that when he's on the show. I'll run down a couple things from my vacation when he's on the show as well. But we're going to have some fun with Sam here today. We're going to react to the preseason AP Top 25 that came out on Monday. Who is too high? Who is too low? Then we'll talk about Sam's list of 100 top transfers for 2025. That is a lot. We each have a couple of guys who we really like, who made the move. We'll talk about those guys. And then we'll end the show with remembering some guys. Sounds good to me. Reminder, until Saturday, the podcast is not coming back. This is our new show. The Athletic did not want to continue the podcast, but David and I wanted to keep doing this. So we are doing this on our own, sometimes with our good friends like Sam. So if you haven't subscribed to the show, please do. Please tell people to subscribe to the show. As we get closer to the season, I've been getting a lot of questions from people asking if it's coming back. It is not. This is the show. So we've been having a lot of fun. It's been growing steadily, and we know there are a lot of new college football podcasts out there. So we appreciate everybody who has signed up for this one. Remember, check out the show notes for if you want to jump ahead in the show. We got timestamps in there. Emails and feedback to bunchformationpod@gmail.com or bunchformation on all the social medias. Please give us a 5-star review if you can. We read everyone on the show. We have a couple new ones, but we will save those for when David comes back. So with that, let's jump into talking about the top 25. Let's jump into the media scrum.
That's why I don't read the newspaper, because it's garbage.
And the AP Top 25. Oh, yeah, by the way, Sam, that's the first time Sam is hearing the wonderful Mike Gundy. What do you think?
That was 17 or 18 years ago. Am I correct on that? I think it was
2008. Yeah, like right around then.
Almost 19 years. Golly, Bobby Reed.
20 years. Bobby Reed. That was a guy, by the way, NCAA football 06 or 07. My brother loved playing with that Oklahoma State team and playing with Bobby Reed. He was good.
He was a star. As a Houston resident, North Shore High School, big power high school program down here. Bobby Reed was a stud at North Shore High, and so I know we'll remember some guys later, but that's a remember some guys prime content right there. Bobby Reed, who sparked that, and then eventually transferred to Texas Southern, if I remember correctly, after all that. So.
That sounds right. And yeah, I like I'm a man, I'm 40 is obviously the bit that everybody remembers from that Mike Gundy rant, but I love the one he takes at the media. So we have a little bit of fun with that. So AP Top 25, I'll read through this really quickly. We'll link to it in the show notes, but in case you haven't heard yet, number 1, Texas, followed by Penn State, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia is your top 5. Wrapping up the top 10 is Notre Dame, Oregon, Alabama, LSU, Miami, Then 11 through 15, Arizona State, Illinois, South Carolina, Michigan, Florida. 16 through 20 is SMU, Kansas State, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Indiana. And wrapping up is 21 through 25, Ole Miss, Iowa State, Texas Tech, Tennessee, Boise, the number 25 spot. I looked it up. I think it's like for the last 5 years, a G5 team has held that number 24 or 25 spot. They always got to throw one in there at the end. Got to throw them a bone.
Throw them a bone, baby. Throw the G5 a bone.
So that was one thing I took away from it. Also, 3 top 10 games in week 1. Texas at Ohio State, LSU at Clemson, Notre Dame at Miami. It is a loaded week 1. Like, not even just those games, but having 3 top 10 games as well. Sam, what do you make of the poll in general? The idea that we have the polls, that Ralph Russo, our colleague, is now voting in it and not running it. Any initial reactions on the general idea of the poll?
Yeah, I didn't know, actually learned this morning when I read Ralph's story about his ballot that he had never voted in the poll, that his role was to just administer it and not vote in it, which is fascinating to me. But it is interesting to me that everyone has kind of accepted Texas as number 1. I don't think that's wrong necessarily, but it is interesting to see a number 1 team with as much turnover in key positions as they have. They have a new quarterback. They have a mostly new offensive line, a bunch of new receivers, new tight end. So they have some really elite defensive players returning, which I think is one of the big reasons why, because that's really, I think, what has carried that team the last few years, and their rebuild has been elite defense. I think if everybody remembers that Quinn Ewers start against Alabama when they lost at home, I believe it was in 2023 or 2022. I'm sorry. But they were in that game because of defense. And ever since then, Pete Kwiatkowski and that defense has been really good. They recruited a high level. They get Anthony Hill. You got Colin Simmons. You got Michael Taft, the All-American safeties back. They're loaded on the defensive end. So they're going to be able to be in a lot of games. And a lot of people, I think, do believe that Arch Manning is going to be an elite quarterback. Count me as one of those guys. I think he's going to be really good. So, but when you think about how much Penn State, who also made it deep into the postseason last year, how much they bring back, they do bring back a starting quarterback. They do bring back a loaded backfield. They did bring in a bunch of transfer receivers who are pretty good. So did Texas. But it has been interesting to me to see Texas essentially be the consensus number 1 in the preseason polls.
Yeah. Well, actually, speaking of Quinn Ewers, I texted you Sunday. Tough debut, NFL debut in the preseason for Quinn Ewers. You and I wrote that story about Quinn, that kind of back and forth, you and me, about why he left. He did have another year of eligibility in college, but he kind of just wanted to go onto the pros. Quinn Ewers for the Dolphins went 4 for 16, 63 yards, no touchdowns, 2 sacks, 2 lost fumbles. Bad numbers, although I actually saw some Dolphins people say that he got the ball out quickly, which is what they wanted, and they actually thought it was interesting. So, but let's start with Texas there, because I'll say I have Texas as being too high. One of the teams I think is ranked too high for a lot of the reasons you just said, which is they turn over so much, and it's not just quarterback and a couple other things. It's the entire offensive line. Like that has been a foundation. Like when you think about Steve Sarkisian bringing Texas back to the semifinals 2 years in a row to almost playing for the national championship, what stood out to me there is the offensive line and what he built, the number of guys, because under Tom Herman and previous staffs, they were terrible on the line, and Sark fixed that. And so you're throwing Arch Manning in there with a whole new line. I think Arch is going to be very good as well, but I'm very concerned about the ability to protect, especially early on. You got to go to Ohio State week 1. So they won't be number 1 in my preseason 136, which will come out next week, I think. I'm not saying Texas is going to be terrible or anything. I just think number 1 is a bit too high for me. Am I crazy?
No, I don't think so. Because look, I think there's a lot of assumption that the young guys they have up front are just going to step in and be dominant or be really efficient, like you had the previous guys. They lost Kelvin Banks, a first-round pick. They lost Hayden Connor. They lost Jake Majors, a center, who was a really critical piece. Cam Williams left as well. They do bring back some guys with starting experience, though. DJ Campbell's the one starter they return. He's got 16 career starts. Cole Hudson, who is an interior lineman, he has started in the past. He started as a true freshman. He has experience. Trevor Gooseby at left tackle, who's going to succeed Kelvin Banks, had to step in when Kelvin Banks was injured late last year. So, and I thought did pretty well. Did pretty well against Texas A&M. Did pretty well against Georgia. Acquitted himself well. They got some other experienced guys, Connor Robertson, some others. So there's talent there. I think there's talent there, and I think there's some belief in Kyle Flood, the offensive line coach, of his track record of development and being able to get these guys play at a high level. So I think there's a lot of assumption that happens, but it's not automatic. And so if you are to question Texas and say, hey, I'm not ready to anoint them number one, O-line would be the big reason why I would say that, not because I don't think they're good. It's just because they're inexperienced there. But they do have Trey Wisner back at running back.
Yes.
CJ Baxter's getting back healthy. And then they've got some talented receivers. Ryan Wingo, who we saw flash as a freshman. Now he's going to step into a bigger role. DeAndre Moore was really reliable for them. So and then they brought in, I mentioned the transfers. They brought in Emmett Mosley from Stanford, who had a really good freshman season. So you get all that. And then it comes back down to the question, is Arch for real? Is this guy going to be who we think he is? Because a lot of people think he's going to be a Heisman Trophy candidate, if potentially a number one pick.
If Arch is not the quarterback, I don't know if they're number one.
No, I don't think so.
Because like a team that loses that much, but still gets the benefit of the doubt is usually a team coming off a national championship or two.
Correct.
You know, a Georgia, an Alabama, that type of thing. And Texas hasn't gone that high. So I think the Arch factor is as much as any of it a reason people are putting them at number one. Who do you think might be too high?
I have Miami as too high at 10. And I know they were in the playoff hunt last year before they lost that late season game, but I am just not on the Carson Beck train right now. We did anybody who saw, I'm sure a lot of you guys saw, we did the college quarterback tiers. Me and Antonio Morales did that in July and ranked all 136. Carson Beck ranked number 12, but was by far one of the most polarizing quarterbacks when we talked to coaches. We talked about 40 plus coaches and staffers from around the country to get their opinions on these guys, and a lot of acknowledgement of his skill and what he's accomplished, but a lot of questions about, does he make good decisions consistently enough? Because it didn't look like that last year. If things break down and the play is not on script, can he do what he needs to do to get you out of that? Because one thing that made Miami great last year was Cam Ward's ability to freelance. When things broke down, his ability to get outside the pocket and make a play with his pure athleticism was impressive. I think Miami took a step down in quarterback. I think Carson Beck's good. I don't think he's what Cam Ward was in terms of physical talent. And I just don't think he's going to reach that level. So I don't see Miami being an elite team. They also only have, I think, 3 returning starters on offense. So they had to retool that unit a little bit. They do have some really talented defensive players, but I'm just not super high on Miami unless Carson Beck reverts to the form 2 years ago.
And he doesn't have a Xavier Restrepo to throw to, who was a security blanket, or a lot of those really good tight ends. What will work in their favor, I think their offensive line is going to be really good, and their defensive line is going to be really good. So, but Miami's got some tough games right out the bat. Notre Dame, as we mentioned, I think Florida's in there as well. So we'll find out pretty quickly about Miami. But that was one I had kind of considered too. They may be a bit too high. Teams that are too low, we'll come back to high. But a team I think is too low, Arizona State at 11. And I'm not saying like top 5 necessarily, but this is a team that brings back everything except Cam Scadaboo, but you added a really good running back in Kane Udo from Army. You've got a couple of really good guys there. You're also going to have Jordan Tyson back, the receiver, a top receiver in the country who was not there for the playoff or for the Big 12 championship. Sam Levitt going into his second year as a starting quarterback. We'll have the same coordinators on all that stuff. I think the bear case for Arizona State might be they won a lot of close games last year, and that is hard to continue year over year. But I just think they'll be better and therefore not in as many close games as there. But I really like what they're doing on all sides. The defense should be really good. They bring back pretty much everybody again. So I think they've figured it out there. They believe in Kenny Dillingham. I love Sam Levitt. I drafted him in our Heisman draft. That is a confident dude who takes every single potential slight there is and turns it into motivation. They were one play away from beating Texas last year. I like Arizona State. That's a team I think like top 10. Like not necessarily preseason top 5, but I will probably have them in my top 10.
Yeah, I agree. I got to see them up close and personal. I was at the Peach Bowl last year. Sam Levitt's magical. Love to see if he can be even better this year. But him and Jordan Tyson, a healthy Jordan Tyson will be huge. And yeah, I love what they're doing. I love that staff Dillingham put together, I think. But the Big 12 is really difficult. The top 6.
It is.
If you can make a case for 5 or 6 teams that I think are legitimate title contenders.
You know what?
League,
I think there's 7 teams in the top 28. If you include the teams receiving votes, including the first 3 that just missed the cut. So, yeah, deep conference. And who do you think is too low?
I had Iowa State, actually, to stay in the Big 12. I have Iowa State too low at 14. They are bringing back a ton. They've got 9 starters back on offense, 5 on defense, and some really talented guys. Rocco Beck, the quarterback, I think he's really one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the country. Really solid, really can get it done. Very poised, got some arm talent, can move around a little bit. They bring back most of that offensive line. Carson Hansen, the running back. I really like what they bring back, and Matt Campbell, I think, has finally figured it out. And when I say that, I mean going from a team that's kind of good and solid and is in the mix to one that now is a contender. Because they are now, to me, officially a perennial Big 12 title contender. When I mention those top 5-6 teams in the league that can win the league, they are one of them, in my opinion. And that's even early in the Matt Campbell era, as he was turning them around. That's not a program we talked about that way. But now we are talking about them as a legitimate title contender in that league, which means a playoff contender also. But I really like how much they bring back. I think they play solid football. I think they don't beat themselves a lot, and I think they've got some real potential. I would actually they're 14, I think. Sorry, no, where are they? They're 22. I'm sorry, they're 22 in there. I would have them in the top 16. I think. Now, I would maybe swap them in Kansas State at 17. I'm a little bit higher when it comes to quarterbacks. I think Avery Johnson's a tremendous talent. A little higher on Rocco Beck than I am on Avery Johnson. I would maybe swap Iowa State and Kansas State at 17 and 22.
Iowa State, they're one game away from winning the Big 12 last year. They make the championship game. They've made it, twice in 4 or 5 years now? I covered that game against Arizona State, and I completely, in my mind, forget that they were in the Big 12 championship game because they kind of just snuck in at the very end because we were watching BYU. There was Colorado for a little bit. There was Kansas State. There was Arizona State. And then Iowa State just kind of sneaks in at the end. And they were one game away from going to the playoff. And so I like that. They had the weird, was it 2023? Because they had a bunch of guys suspended for the gambling and they lose to Ohio, and it just was kind of a mess. But they rebounded and they're back to being what they've been.
They played in 2 Big 12 title games since 2021. Playing in a Big 12 title game was a foreign concept for that program. But now they are legit.
Yeah, and they haven't won a conference championship in 100 years or so. It's been a long drop, but that is a really solid program now. That's a good pick. Teams that are too high, going back to that, I'm going to say SMU at number 16. And it's not that I think SMU is going to completely fall apart. It's not that I think they were a fraud in that playoff game. I don't. I think they deserve to be there, deserve to get that spot. But they lose pretty much every playmaker off of last year's team other than Kevin Jennings, whom Sam Kahn was on the bandwagon far before any of us in the group chat, for the record. He was the Kevin Jennings guy. And he was right. But you have to replace a lot of talent at the pass rushing, at running back, at receiver. You do get RJ Maryland back, a good tight end. You will throw to him a lot. And Kevin Jennings, I think, is a good quarterback. He's the guy, second year as a starter. But you got to replace those key guys, and the schedule is a lot tougher. You got Miami this year. You got Clemson this year. You didn't play both of them last year. Syracuse as well. Louisville, who they did beat, but I think Louisville's going to be pretty good. Got to go to TCU. Got Baylor in the non-conference as well. It's a tough schedule. And so preseason 16 feels like one of those, well, they made the playoff last year, so they should be in here somewhere type of picks. I'm not sure yet if they're going to be in my top 25. They will probably be in that 20 to 25 range, but 16 feels high. Am I wrong?
I can see them more in the 20 range. I wouldn't completely drop them out of the top 25, but I will say this. I do have faith in them from this standpoint. Ever since Rhett Lashley has been there, they've been able to retool that roster every year. They've been able to, they've been one of the better programs in my mind at finding value in the portal, finding contributors, guys that fit. Brashard Smith was kind of a revelation for them. Like he was not the guy going into the preseason
he was a wide receiver.
Oh, right.
He was a receiver. They moved to running back.
Yeah. He's not somebody you're thinking, oh, he's going to be one of the leading rushers in the country, but they turned him into a playmaker. So I think with what they are able to do from that standpoint, I still think they're going to be a really good team. I still think they're going to be a contender in the ACC. But yes, they did lose a lot, especially on defense. And they lost some really big contributors, especially on that defensive front. Some of those guys are pro now. And so, but Kent Jennings back is really big. And his second year as a full-time starter, let's not forget, he wasn't even the starter at the start of the year last year. He didn't take over until after game 3 as the guy. And so I'm curious to see and excited to see how much he grows as a passer and how much better he can be. I know everybody remembers that Penn State game, and it was a disastrous performance. And I think he would admit that. Rhett Lashley, everybody else in that program would admit that it was a really, really bad day at the office for them. But I would think he will learn from that and get better. But I could see them putting them in the 20 to 23 range in this poll.
And the other thing, 16. A lot of those guys they lost were specifically Miami transfers.
Mm-hmm.
Rhett Lashley brought a ton of guys from Miami, former 4-star guys when he was the OC there, and they all hit. So,
he's still doing that, buddy. He's still mining that. He's still mining that one, that program for talent. So, because they have a lot of former Miami staffers on that coaching staff too. So they're still doing that a little bit, but they've done a really good job of roster management in this current era. I give Lashley a lot of credit. That's the reason why they are where they are right now.
All right. Who do you think is, who else is, anybody else you have too high?
I'm going to hesitate to say this, but are we sure Texas Tech needs to be 23? And
you're the guy who wrote the Texas Tech story.
I have probably written spilled more ink about Texas Tech this offseason than anybody on this staff. I think they are a good team. I do not consider them the odds-on favorite to win the Big 12. I know they've talked about that as the expectation, and that it's playoff or bust, Big 12 title or bust in Lubbock for Joey McGuire and company. But I still have a lot of questions about a few parts of this roster. Baron Morton, the quarterback, for instance, he's been pretty good quarterback. His numbers are good, not super consistent. Has also been playing through an AC joint injury for the last 18 months. He finally got that repaired this offseason and is going to be fully healthy. So does that mean we get a better Baron Morton? Because I think he really is the linchpin to all this. They've outfitted everything else. Defensive line is going to be really good. They've got some pretty good pass catchers they brought in, good offensive linemen. That's the other thing. Portaling an offensive line, not necessarily easy. They brought in multiple offensive linemen. Hunter Zambrano, one of the more higher rated ones. He's a guy who didn't play last year because of, I think it was like a sports hernia injury or something of that sort. He had to have surgery in the offseason, didn't go through spring ball. So he's been getting on track this offseason. There's a lot of those type of guys. Cole Wisniewski, the safety they brought in. Another guy, North Dakota State, really good player. Missed a lot of time last year with an injury. Was a preseason, was a FCS All-American before that. But again, taking guys like that who have an injury history can be a little tricky. And I don't want to say we get into this trap, I think, sometimes when teams take a lot of transfers, we almost treat it like National Signing Day. Like coaches say, oh, National Signing Day, we got to fill all our needs and we got all the recruits and we got a great class. I think we tend to do that with transfers sometimes. You don't always hit on all the transfers. I'm not saying that Texas Tech won't hit on a bunch of them. I think they will. But I do have questions about it. And so I'm not saying I'd probably put Tech at 25. And so I'm saying they're too high by a couple spots, but I'd have them at 25, not at 23. I still think I'd have Iowa State ahead of them. I still think I'd have Arizona State ahead of them. And I'd probably have Kansas State ahead of them going into the season. I might even make a case for Baylor ahead of them. Baylor brings back a ton, especially offensively with Sawyer Robertson. And they do not have two new coordinators. Texas Tech also replaced their coordinators. And I think they're very good coordinators. Mac Leftwich, Sheila Wood, thought they were great hires. But all that newness, what if it takes a little bit to gel? I just have some questions about Texas Tech.
Yeah, it's fair. A couple teams, Baylor, by the way, third out of the top 25. And one of the teams I actually thought was too low was the second team out. This is the Utah Utes. I am coming out of Big 12 Media Day. The feeling I got from them more than anybody else was like, this might be the team that like they feel good about themselves. They have maybe the best offensive line in the country. You bring in Devin Dampier, the quarterback from New Mexico. You bring in the offensive coordinator, Jason Beck. They do have completely new wide receivers. That's kind of unknown, but I think this is going to be a kind of ground and pound, run the ball a lot type of team, especially with Dampier. And they're going to be good on defense like they always are. I'm also surprised that North Carolina did not get a single vote. In the top 25. Not that I think they should be in the top 25 or anything like that, but
nobody fell for the Belichick buzz, so to speak.
Nobody fell for the Belichick buzz at all.
I mean, they turned that roster over a lot. And I will say I'm very intrigued by Gio Lopez. I think he was one of the best G5 quarterbacks in the country. Really, I think he's a legit talent. So I'm excited to see him in the ACC. But I would say I agree with you on Utah. I am very much on the Devin Dampier bandwagon. He's an adventure. If you guys didn't watch him play last year, it's the old Forrest Gump box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get because you may get an amazing play where he jukes a few guys and runs for 30 yards. You also may get a pick that makes you want to pull your hair out. It's going to be entertaining to watch Utah football. I actually joked about this. I was on a podcast a couple weeks ago, joked about this. I think you're going to have to cover Kyle Whittingham's eyes when the offense is on the field because he may lose his mind sometimes. But this is going to be a different Utah team. Remember, they came in to the Big 12 as the preseason favorite last year. Obviously, it went sideways with the quarterback, with Cam Rising getting hurt. And, they had Isaac Wilson. They had a lot of turnover that position, a lot of injuries and all that stuff, offensive inefficiency. This is still a program that is built on toughness, physicality, and really good defense. If they can flip the script offensively and score some points and have a dynamic playmaker. Oh, by the way, not really a program that really lived on the quarterback run game, but Dampier is going to make that happen because Jason Beck's going to utilize that. And it makes them really one of the more interesting teams of the Big 12 to me.
All right, real quick before we move on to transfers, anyone else you think is too low?
Maybe Texas A&M in 19. I am a little bit high on Texas A&M. Is
that just because of them in College Football 26 in the run game?
No. I think Marcel Reed is sneaky underrated. He's got a lot of room to grow, but I think he's a dynamic athlete. I think he, with a full off season, being the guy in Colin Klein's offense is going to help. He's a really good system fit for that scheme for what Colin Klein wants to do and utilize the quarterback run game. They bring back a lot of the backfield. They bring back a lot of the offensive line. The one big weakness they had last season, the thing that really killed them in losses to Notre Dame and Texas, is they could not get guys open at receiver. So what they do, they win in the portal. They went and got Casey Concepcion from NC State. They went and got Mario Craver from Mississippi State. They got a 5-star recruit out of high school. Terry Bussey's a year older. I think they did a tremendous job in filling their biggest need in the portal. And so you take those guys with the experience they got coming back and a coach in Mike Elko, who I think has done a really solid job of sending a strong foundation for this program, getting it back on track, not the drama-filled nonsense that we had in the Jimbo Fisher era. And I think this is a team that is more like a top 15 team. Remember, they were a game away from playing for the SEC title game last year.
Yeah.
If they don't lose in 4 overtimes against Auburn, they are in. And then, of course, if they beat Texas, I mean, we focus on the Texas loss, but they squandered a game against Auburn the week before that they should have
also
won.
squandered the bowl game against USC.
Yeah.
So.
And they slid back big time last year.
Yeah.
And they made some changes. Elko's calling the defense now. And so I think they could be sneaky good this year.
Yeah. All right. So that's the preseason AP Top 25 poll. We're going to move on to Top 100 transfers with some takes on who we like and who we don't like. So we're going to put this in the Say What segment.
I'd like to know where Lou Holtz is right now.
And
where is Lou Holtz?
I don't know where Lou Holtz is right now. That's a good question. Let's
Day
go with
probably
3.
knows.
Yeah, Ryan Day may know. Let's go with 3. We're going to do 5, but I got to get you out of here soon. So I'm going to go with 3. One of the ones I already had was Devin Dampier. We talked about him. So I'll skip him. I'll go kind of lower in the list. Sam and Bruce Feldman and some of the team at The Athletic, they put together a list of 100 transfers. Top 100 guys. I don't know how you figured out how to order it, but it's one of the things you guys have done the last couple of years. I find it very insightful. We got the link in the show notes. A lot of guys, you may not know where they are now, or you may not know some of the biggest names who moved. It's a great piece to check out, to catch up as we get toward the season. And one of those guys that you kind of forget about is the first guy I'll say here, and that is Nick Anderson, wide receiver moving from Oklahoma to LSU. Nick Anderson had a huge 2023 for the Sooners, 31 catches, 800 yards, 10 touchdowns, a freshman record, caught the winner against Texas. I was there. I think Sam might have been there too.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of wonder what happened to him. Well, he missed all of last year with injury. Mm-hmm. And now he's going to LSU, where he's playing with maybe the best quarterback in the country in Garrett Nussmeier. He's a deep threat. I think he's going to have a big year. So I think Nick Anderson, LSU receiver, could have a gigantic year. What about you, Sam?
Love Nick Anderson. They loaded up weapons for Garrett Nussmeier in the portal. John Mateer, Washington State, was our number 1 guy. Yes. Certainly I think a lot of casual fans know him, but maybe some of them don't, because I don't know how many of you guys were tuning in the CW. If you're sickos like me and Chris, you were watching some CW football, Pac-12. And Mateer is a lot of fun. When I talked about Devin Dampier earlier, Mateer harkens a lot of those feelings too, because he's a tremendous athlete, but also can rifle it in there. Also did the same thing, imported the quarterback and the offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle. I think Mateer kind of holds the key to Oklahoma season and Brent Venables' future, honestly. That they have got to have a big season. Jim Nagy and that GM and that personnel staff at Oklahoma had a big offseason getting transferred. They got Jay Knott from Cal, got a bunch of other guys, but Mateer is the one. And every coach we talked to when we did quarterback tiers and we did this rankings list, almost everyone universally loves Mateer and believes that he's going to transition well into the SEC. Because a lot of people question, he was playing a Pac-12 / Mountain West schedule last year.
That's my question.
A lot of people that we talk to think he's still going to be a good player and he's still going to make Oklahoma a factor in the SEC. I found that fascinating. There was not a lot of skepticism about Mateer taking the step up into the SEC.
Fair enough. Another guy I have on here. You had him at number 50, and that is Miller Moss, quarterback, transferring from USC to Louisville. I'm pretty high on Louisville this year, and I think all you have to do is look at the guys Jeff Brom is putting in the NFL. We just saw what Tyler Shuck did for the Saints. Not great, but he was a 2nd-round pick. Jack Plummer, David Blau. You look at the guys that Jeff Brom gets the most out of. I think Miller Moss, talent-wise, is probably better than most of these guys. So I think he's going to have a big year for Louisville. I think he's going to put up some big numbers. You had him at number 50 on the list. I'm high on Miller Moss. I'm high on Louisville this year.
Yeah, Brom's done a great job of importing quarterbacks and developing them. So it's fascinating to see what he does. I'll take another quarterback who not as experienced as Moss, but one that, again, really intriguing amongst coaches we talked to. Bo Pribula at Mizzou, the Penn State transfer. Really athletic, can really freelance, but also good passer. Hasn't really had a chance to play a ton. He had the game against Wisconsin last year, I think it was, when he had to come in for Drew Aller. and he's had some backup time, and he's been sitting waiting in the wings. When Drew Aller decided to come back, he decided to transfer so he could go start somewhere. A lot of programs that we talked to who were quarterback needy were very interested in Bo, and Mizzou ended up being the one to get him. I think with Eli Drinkwitz and what they do offensively could be a really, really electric. He's at 38 on this transfer list, and he was in the mid-30s on our quarterback list. I think he can be way higher than that by the end of the season. I think there's some real potential there.
Yeah, he'll be interesting just because we haven't seen a lot of him. Mm-hmm. So kind of how does that work when he goes into a new spot with some time? Number 80 on your list, the last guy I'll highlight here, Maverick McIver. Incredible name. Abilene Christian, going to Western Kentucky. Like some of the other quarterbacks we've talked about on this show, they imported the quarterback and the offensive coordinator coming from Abilene Christian. McIver had almost 4,000 passing yards last year. He nearly beat Texas Tech in week 1. For people who don't remember, had more than 500 yards. He previously played at Texas Tech as well. We've seen this work at Western Kentucky. They bring in quarterback from somewhere, and he throws for 4,500 yards, and he gets into the NFL. Like they did it with Bailey Zappi. They did it with the guy from the D2 kid from Florida.
Austin Reed, was it?
Yes, Austin Reed. Yep. And now Maverick McIver, who I think will have a big year for Western Kentucky. Keep an eye on that name because it's also a lot of fun to say.
Yeah, okay, so Kevin Jennings was the guy I annoyed you guys about, and I guess maybe this won't be in the group chat because I don't know how many guys in our group chat are watching Western Kentucky, but I feel about Maverick McIver the way I felt about Kevin Jennings last year. Like, I am all in on this kid. I watched
That's a stamp of approval.
Yeah, I watched this kid when he played against Texas Tech last year. Rick Bowie, the offensive coordinator, who he followed, stud. I thought he was a really, really impressive coach. And I think when you see the history that Western Kentucky had with that and McIver's talent, I think Western Kentucky is going to be a nice surprise. And McIver's going to be a lot of fun. They are one of the week 0 teams, by the way. So if you were looking for some week 0 action, they play Sam Houston State. So you can get an early glimpse of Maverick McIver on the 23rd. But
it's a big Conference USA game, by the way. By the way, Conference USA, the first couple of weeks of the season, it's when they're having their biggest games. A lot of the big cross-conference games early in the year, week 0. Check it out, folks.
Yeah, no doubt. My last guy, Santana Hopper from Tulane, number 69 on our list. You don't get many G5 to G5 transfers that end up on a list like this, but he's one of the few because, as you know, these days, when a G5 player makes the all-conference team, chances are they're going to get an offer to go to a Power 4 program, and they're going to go. Santana Hopper is one of those rare guys who was all-conference last year, first team all-Sun Belt last year, but stayed in the G5. Tulane, I'm sure, I don't know, but I would imagine probably gave him a little bump from whatever he was getting at App State last year. But highest rated PFF grade in the league among defensive linemen in 2024, really productive, big, physical. I think staff there is really excited about him, thinks he's going to be a big-time impact player for them. And I think that program has really caught a wave no pun intended, actually. They've caught a wave these last few years, the last couple of years of Willie Fritz, and then John Summerall, I think, has done an outstanding job. So Santana Hopper, good player to watch out if you're watching the Tulane Green Wave this year.
The thing about Tulane, they lost Mekhi Hughes, they lost Darian Mensah. They've lost some big guys to P4 schools, but they actually take quite a few G5 guys. They also got Ball State's quarterback, who was the MAC freshman of the year,
yep,
who's probably third string now.
They took 4 quarterbacks this offseason. They took TJ Finley, who's not on the team anymore. They took Caden Simmons. They took Brennan Sullivan from Iowa, and then they took Jake Retzloff after he got out of BYU.
But you see the lower level of the G5, you see Tulane finding some areas to kind of grab some guys there, even within the G5, which is interesting. So that's a good pick. So, and with that,
I'm high on Summerall. Summerall's a stud.
Yes, he'll be an SEC coach next year, almost assured. So with that, we're going to go into our final segment called Remember Some Guys.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
This is a segment where we name an old college football player and we go, hey, remember that guy? I'm going to start off because I was in Italy and France for the last 2 weeks. I wanted to pick some Italian guy. And so I settled on Gino Torretta.
Oh my gosh.
Miami from 1991 Heisman Trophy winner, I believe.
I believe that's correct.
He quarterback at Miami, was a very good team there. I believe he still works for Sirius XM Radio. I've been on his show a bunch of times. I think if he's still there, but one of the least remembered like Heisman Trophy winners, if you name the last like kind of 30 years, he's not a guy you think of, but no, he won the Heisman Trophy. So that's what the segment is for, to remember that. So Gino Torretta, we remember you.
Yeah,
Sam.
I would have been 8 years old, I think, when he won the Heisman. And he was the first Heisman winner I remember. Like, that was the first time I was old enough to really remember college football. And I remember that my 91 Miami team being really good. I remember Gino Torretta winning the Heisman. And then, of course, 4 years later, Sports Illustrated had the article about shutting down the program or whatever. And we saw the documentary. And I was actually watching the U last night, the 30 for 30 on the U.
Oh, nice.
I always one of my favorite pre-bed activities is to go turn on an old 30 for 30, because especially one that I've already watched, because then if I fall asleep, it's not a big deal that I miss anything. But the U is a staple. I was watching that last night, and I was actually probably fell asleep around the time where they were talking about Dennis Erickson taking over the program, bringing the one back offense, which helped Gino Torretta get a Heisman. But great quarterback. Remember some guys. I've got to stay on brand as the Texpert with a Texas player, state of Texas player, I should say. And I was thinking about this because we were talking about the video game and playing a lot. One of the guys I used to use in the video game who was really good, especially at a school that you wanted to do a dynasty with, was Patrick Cobbs, the North Texas running back. You remember Patrick Cobbs? Once led the nation in rushing yards. I think he ran for 1,600 yards in, I think, 2003 or 2004, was the program's leading rusher, was part of 4 Sun Belt championship teams at North Texas. It's in his time there. And actually, even though he was an undrafted free agent, went on to play in the NFL for about 6 years. But he was a guy that I remember because North Texas had a run of running backs that were really good year after year after year. And Cobbs was one of those guys. I think really, if I remember, I mean, at least from what I remember, he was a guy that really started that run. But they had a lot of really good guys after that. His school record that he ran for eventually got passed by Lance Dunbar. But now he's back at North Texas. He went and coached some high school football for a little bit, and now he is back at North Texas as the running backs coach. He was hired by Seth Luttrell in 2019 and was retained by Eric Morris, and he's the run game coordinator, running backs coach at North Texas. So Patrick Cobbs, true mean green, bleeds mean green all the time. So that's my guy. I used to play with him on the video game and when it used to be called NCAA football, because the nation's leading rusher is actually pretty good. So you could actually do some damage in the video game with that, even if he was at North Texas. Yeah,
they were, I think my brother and I, you had to pick like a 1-star or 2-star program, I think, to start off with. And I'd always pick North Texas. They felt like a cheat code because they were good. They were always good. Like early on in the game, and you had Cobbs
because they were winning Sun Belt championships every year.
Yeah,
that's why.
Like, well, they're available. I'm going to pick them, and the recruiting was pretty good. So
I actually went to go see them and see him during that run, because every time back then the Sun Belt champion would go to the New Orleans Bowl, if you remember. And I, with some friends, went to a Monday Night Football game early in the Houston Texans tenure when they played the New Orleans Saints at the Superdome. Well, the next night, North Texas and I believe Colorado State were playing the New Orleans Bowl. So we were there the next night, and so I got to see Patrick Cobbs, North Texas, that night. So that's some good old memories for me. Back when I was in my early 20s, I could just leave town and go watch a couple football games somewhere without any other repercussions.
Good times. Patrick Cobbs, Gino Torretta, we remember you. That's going to do it here on the show. I want to thank Sam Kahn, our good buddy, for joining the bunch. Sam will be on a bunch during the season as well as we get going. David should be back later this week if he gets out of moving hell. And then we got football next week, folks. Week 0's here. Maverick McIver is going to be playing. And I'm having a lot of fun. We've been having a lot of fun with the show. Please subscribe, tell your friends, everybody about it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and everything you can. It really helps us. Leave us a 5-star review. That helps us as well. As we get into the season here, we're ramping this back up and we want you involved. Send us feedback, bunchformationpod@gmail.com. We're going to have mailbag questions. I got an email from Niall, by the way, in Scotland, our friend who was trying to pick a college football team. He says he's picked a team. He told me who it is. We'll talk about it on the mailbag episode of maybe the next show. We'll try to get to it, but have that to look forward to. We're here, folks. We're almost back to the season. Looking forward to it. Sam, Con, thanks again for joining. For Sam, I'm Chris Vannini. This is Bunch Formation. We will talk to you later this week. And don't forget, bring back the turnover chain.
And long live the Southwest Conference.